Good morning. My name is Howard Fuller, and I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I assure you that I did not bring this snow with me. I mean, I feel at home, but I didn't bring it. So, Chairman Rollins and all the members of the committee, I really appreciate this opportunity to speak briefly with you about charter schools, something that is very close to my heart. I recognize that this is a blue state, but I was in Louisville last night and I saw a lot of red. So I understand both of them, and I also understand that if I were to come to Frankfort and did not say something about Kentucky State, given the number of my friends from Milwaukee who graduated from Kentucky State, I couldn't go back to Milwaukee. So I want to recognize that as well. Having said that, I think one of the reasons they asked me to come is that I was actually back there in the beginning when this movement started, back in 1990. The first charter school bill was passed in Minnesota in 1990. One of the first so-called national meetings we held in Governor Roy Romer's mansion in Colorado. And there was 35 of us at this big national meeting. Last year, we held our national conference in Atlanta, and there was over 4,000 people. What this speaks to is really the growth of the charter school movement. But the one thing I want to be very clear about to those of you here today, and I really do thank you for creating a space to actually have a civil conversation. Because right now we all understand that's a very difficult thing to have happen in America. And it's also clear to me that I would be misrepresenting the movement, and I would be treating you as if you had no sense at all to walk in here and try to make a case that charter schools are some kind of panacea that's going to solve all of the educational problems in Kentucky or anywhere else. The fact of the matter is, there are excellent charter schools in this country, and there are terrible charter schools in this country. I want you all to understand that I chair the board of a small high school in Milwaukee. And we've been in existence for 8 years. This year is our first year as a charter school. We were a private school prior to that. And we're not a good school. But what we were able to do is that once we as a board came to grips with the fact that although we had good anecdotal information, we were taking kids who never thought about college, and we were sending them to college. The reality is, when I looked at all of the data, and our board looked at all the data, we were not a good school. And so what we were able to do was to pivot and say, okay, what do we have to do? We have to reconstitute our board. We have to bring in new leadership. We have to bring in new teachers. We got to get more clearly focused on the data. We were able to do that because as a charter school, we had the ability to make those changes and to make them quickly. Now, if we don't meet the benchmarks that have been set by our authorizer, we're going to have to shut down. But as a board, we're never going to have another entity shut us down. We will shut ourselves down because we have that responsibility to our kids. I've read this bill, and one of the things I can say, having seen charter school bills from day one, this is a very strong charter school bill, as Lisa said. And one advantage of being in the 10 that doesn't have a charter school bill, you can benefit from the mistakes that have been made in prior bills. This bill is a strong bill. Now, I understand that today you're going to hear why charter schools are good, you're going to hear why they're bad. I work for a governor in the state of Wisconsin, and I had a committee that I had to report to. And I understand that facts are facts, but politics are politics. And at the end of the day, politics is going to decide this. And I know how difficult your jobs are. Because as an advocate, I only have to be concerned about my side of the issue. As a legislator, you're going to have to be concerned about all sides of the issue. And I know what every single vote means to those of you who are here. But the thing I want to say to you is the thing that has made America great is our willingness to face up to very difficult problems and to come up with very difficult solutions. I'm currently reading Thomas Friedman's book, That Used to Be Us. The scariest book I had read before that was The World is Flat. But if you read That Used to Be Us, it is scarier than The World is Flat. And what Thomas Friedman says is there are 4 things that we face in America: globalization, the IT revolution, debt, and climate, and energy. And that if America does not come up with solutions that address those 4 issues, we're no longer going to be at the top in the world. And whether we like it or not, when we look at international comparisons of our students to people in the rest of the world, we are declining. And what that says to us is we've got to seek new solutions to old problems. And it says to me that we have to consider other options. And the thing about charter schools is there's no magic to charter schools. The real innovation is not necessarily the schools. The innovation is the chartering process that gives us the opportunity to create new and different schools. And the thing I want to leave with you, if you don't hear anything else that I say, please hear this. I'm a strong supporter of public education because I'm able to understand very clearly the difference between public education and the system that delivers public education. The system is not the same as public education. So that the Jefferson County School District, for example, is not public education. It is a delivery system for public education. And so the issue becomes for us is it a proper policy matter to change delivery systems? And if you change a delivery system, it does not mean that you're opposed to the philosophical basis for the existence of the delivery system. It means what you're deciding is that we need more options in our delivery system. And that's all charter schools are. And the beauty of it is, with what you have in front of you, you have a way to hold people accountable for results. Because Lisa said, what charter schools are supposed to be about, and what this bill does, it says, we will give you freedom, but you have to be prepared to be accountable for results. What better public policy could you have than to give someone freedom, but in turn say, you have to be responsible for results? I would be disingenuous if I came to Kentucky and didn't say, whenever you talk about charter schools in the South, the specter of race is always sitting in front of us. And there's a history in this country that I clearly understand. And I understand that over the years, that solutions that were supposed to be fair, by the time we got through with it, it would turn into its opposite. And there's always a fear about that. If we do this, is it going to take us back? I remember when. I remember sitting on the back of it. All of these issues come up. And we would be disingenuous if we didn't say that this lurks in our mind. But what I would say to you is, this is 2012. And in 2012, we've got to come up with solutions that speak to the issues that we face in 2012. What charter schools are one part of a solution. And the way you keep all of you all sitting here know, there's never been a policy that's ever been passed in any legislature anywhere in this country that only has an upside. Every public policy that I have ever seen has an upside and a downside. And what you're constantly trying to do at a certain moment in history is to determine if the upside outweighs the downside. And that's ultimately what you're going to decide. I obviously am arguing that the upside to charters is greater than the downside. But I'm not arguing that there's no downside. I'm not arguing that a charter school is some, as I said, ultimate solution. It's not. But it does give us a way to speak differently about public education. It does give us a way to begin to talk about different ways of delivering public education to our students. Because you know what? At the end of the day, this is really not a discussion about charter schools. This is a discussion about democracy. Because ultimately, you cannot have a democracy without an educated populace. And we have a deep responsibility to democracy, to create as many different ways as we can to educate our young people. I'll end with this. I was the superintendent of the Milwaukee Public Schools. My wife was the superintendent of the Detroit Public Schools. So when people start telling me, well, Howard, you don't know how the public school system operates, well, actually I do. I actually do understand it. I have a tremendous number of scars on my back to indicate that I understand it. But the deepest thing that I understand is America did not become great by putting the interests of institutional arrangements ahead of the interests of our people. And we will not maintain greatness if we continue to put tradition ahead of the needs of the kids that we have today. Because in reality, my friends, we cannot teach kids that we wish were there or the kids who used to be there. We got to teach kids who are actually there. And we have to create ways to reach those kids. I'm reading a book right now called Hip Hop Genius. And I know many of y'all might not be into hip hop or anything like that. But you know what? It don't matter that you're not, our kids are. And there's a school in St. Paul called the High School for the Recording Arts. And the beauty of this school is it's a charter school. It's dealing with kids who, if the High School for the Recording Arts was not there, they would be on the streets. And so the beauty of this school is they came up with an idea. And the charter arrangement gave them a way to create a school for a group of kids that are now being saved. And they can be a part of making America great, as opposed to a part to dragging America down. So whether you all pass the bill this year, next year, the year after, the point is going to be, we're not going to stop coming up here. And we're going to keep talking to you. And I know the opposition ain't going to quit coming up here. So we both going to be up here. And at some point in time, the question for Kentucky is going to be, do you join the other 42 or do you stay with the 10? And I urge you to join the rest. Join the rest of these states who figured out that this is one thing we can give to our kids that will help us ultimately fight to sustain our democracy. Thank you very much.